Hello, Nick. Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Borstein. Welcome to the second episode of Future Law Bootcamp. I'm your host and CEO of LexFusion and pretty much total freak about the world of legal innovation. On this show, Future Law, the lawyers of tomorrow get to meet the change makers of today. We believe there's tectonic forces bubbling under the surface of the $800 billion legal industry. Globalization is allowing lawyers and other professionals from all over the globe to work seamlessly on legal issues. Technology is automating routine processes and, as we know, crawling up the value chain. And the status quo on legal regulation is being questioned and changed, allowing professionals outside of the bar to work alongside lawyers to solve problems at scale and also to enjoy the profits of legal work. Finally, outside investors are pouring in. These investors see opportunity to make a broken system dramatically better. Futurist Peter Diamandis likes to say, if you want to make $1 billion, go help 1 billion people. And that stuck with me. Law affects every single person on this planet, and there are a lot of people to help, and there's a lot of money to make in the process. So whatever drives you, idealism, excitement, or just greed, I always beg all lawyers to pay a little bit of attention to the legal innovation space because you just might find your individual purpose here. So today we're going to talk about 3 big buckets of challenges to the legal tech entrepreneur. Those 3 buckets are, once you have this great idea, how do you build the product? Once you build the product, how do you finance the growth? And once you have the financing and the product, how do you sell and market the damn thing? Because it's not part of our tool belts as lawyers. My guest today, Nick West, is experienced in all 3. A little bit of background before I start peppering him with questions and we have a conversation. Nick is the Chief Strategy Officer of Mishcon Reya. Mishcon is a humongous litigation firm in the UK. If you don't know them, you absolutely should. Nick leads technology and strategy groups, as well as the firm's research and development arm. He's also the founder of MDR Lab, a program that is close to my heart for legal tech startups, for technology startups in the legal space. And his history is interesting. He was a former managing director at Axiom in the UK and director at LexisNexis UK legal business. So he's an expert in the field of technology, knowledge management, and new business in the legal sector. He began his career as what we like to think of as a real lawyer at Linklaters, and he's on the board of many exciting legal tech startups, including Time by Ping, which is a member of LexFusion, my company. So that was a mouthful. Nick, let's start.
Hey,
You're a real lawyer. You practiced at Linklaters. Tell us how you first migrated into what I believe is this exciting world of business and legal tech.
So the last time anyone called me a real lawyer was a long time ago.
Well, I said were. I said
yeah.
Yeah.
It was obvious to me as when I was practicing, this is late 90s, that the way that we did things was kind of old fashioned then. And I was always one of those people that wanted to try to find better ways to do stuff. So it was a natural thing to do. I was dissatisfied with the status quo and tried to push some boundaries. So Linklaters had a product at the time called Blue Flag, which was an early sort of expert system. And I wrote the data privacy module for it, even as a sort of, what we call a trainee solicitor. And it was obvious to me that stuff was just more interesting than the job I was doing. So I took a bit of a meandering path. I left law. I went and spent a few years at McKinsey, the strat consulting firm, and did a lot of tech stuff in there, and kind of came back out as a law tech guy, and that's where I've been ever since.
So, one thing I like to tell my lawyer friends, some of which love the practice and some of which is not really a great fit for them. But I like to point out that the problems that they see are the companies and inventions of tomorrow. Things that you can hopefully, automate, send to other parts of the world where they can be more efficient and cost effective at it. Write down a process that just like McDonald's that anyone can run. My first exposure to it, as was many people, was in the world of e-discovery, where back in the early 2000s when the world of email was exploding and data was exploding exponentially, which it continues to, was grinding the litigation world to a halt. So that was my first foray into legal innovation. What was it that you saw that struck you as preposterous and inefficient?
But it was the way we did everything. I mean, these are, we shouldn't spend too much time because it was obvious stuff. It's lawyers proofreading documents. I mean, goodness, it's the perfect advertisement, right, for the beginnings of Litera, right? I mean, it's why do we need super highly paid, highly trained people doing those things in its entirety? I'm not saying there isn't a place for the human review. But there are certain things that the machines are going to do better than humans, whether we're talking about e-disclosure, e-discovery, or whether we're talking about proofreading documents. So even at the time, they were the kinds of tasks that I was being asked to do. I remember going to physical data rooms and looking at endless documents and thinking, man, it was an interesting time because, there was the whole .com era, the internet, this is 97, 98, 99, things are happening, and you can immediately see, if you're interested, about how technology could apply to some of the tasks you're doing. And to go to your point about the problems you face today are the products of tomorrow. I mean, that is the blueprint, isn't it, for so many great companies. It really was the people that had experienced them, probably partnering up with someone who could think about tech. And that combination, that founding team combination of the former practitioner with the technologist is a really good approach to founding a law tech business.
It's really powerful.
I mean, I love talking. You mentioned earlier on, I love talking product. I love talking product market fit, and I I think that segues us quite well into that stuff, because it's how do you make sure that you truly understand the problem you're trying to solve, right? I mean, you must have seen that time after time, good examples and bad examples of that.
Yep. So let's touch on that a little bit. MDR Lab, which is a part of your law firm, Mishcon, brings in new legal tech companies every year and gives them access to the infrastructure of the firm and the lawyers at the firm. It's something I've been very impressed with for a long time. We did an interview for Above the Law a few years ago, because one of the huge struggles when you have an idea, and these ideas clearly have merit, like you said, it's obvious, it's easy, but it's easy to come up with an idea. It's hard to turn that idea into a product. How do you help? Tell us a little bit about the lab, better than my kind of pathetic little description, and tell me what is the experience like for these people with a new idea?
What historically, what we've done, I mean, obviously this year's a bit different because of the virtual nature of things, but historically we have taken in early stage companies, people with a product concept or an early stage product who recognize that they've still got some work on the kind of product journey to even get to something which is saleable. And we figure out, in advance what a sensible 12 weeks could look like for them, what's achievable. So it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's not week 1 we'll do this, week 2 we'll do that, and do it for everybody at the same time. This is individual company by individual company, we figure out what's achievable and what could be done and who they're going to need exposure to. And we do just that. We bring them into the office and they sit close to the people, the customers, the potential customers, the potential users, and they work with them. And obviously we have to strike a balance between regulatory confidentiality type issues and actually sort of getting people some real experience and being able to sit and look over people's shoulders sometimes when it's relevant, or having access to be able to, agree something in the morning, something's a good idea. They can go away and mock it up and in the afternoon bring it back to the same lawyer and say, did you mean this? Right? It's all about accelerating the pace, the number of iterations that you can do. So that's been the primary focus. The lab to date has been 99% about product market fit, about deeply understanding the problem that you're trying to solve and figuring out a product that people will be willing to pay money for. And so that's been this year. The reason this year there's a couple of differences. One is the virtual nature of how we're doing things, but also we've expanded a little. So we now offer a new program called Launch, which is for even earlier stage people, for entrepreneurs with just an idea. And that's a 6-month thing where we nurture people through the process of building a business. But that is just literally kicking off now. So we've got a couple of different things to offer.
Oh, that's really exciting. So I think we talked about this in the past. When I first heard about this idea and the fact that associates and even partners get to work hands-on with these entrepreneurs, I thought, for me, I think that might have kept me at my firm, certainly for a few more years, maybe forever, if I could kind of be part of this building process. I'm curious. I know that's how I would have reacted, I believe. But how do the various constituencies in the firm react to kind of this testing grounds for new technology and kind of who benefits?
So, I think the reason we've been successful in this is it without telling too long a story, the firm did a piece of work in 2015 that was a sort of 10-year, what do we need to do to be relevant in the 10 years ahead? Technology clearly and obviously identified as a theme. And the shorthand for that is slightly cheesily, we talk about being technologically transformed. And it was my job to figure out what that meant for us. And in some respects, that means
hard to do, right?
Yeah, but in some respects, that means upgrading our core tech. In some respects, it means changing the way we manage the business of law around the work that we do. In some, it's about the practice of law. But the important point was this was a board level piece of work, and that technologically transformed kind of moniker has stuck. And that is what the lab is part of that. It's just a part. There's many other things we do, but it's a part of it. And technologically transformed also means a lot of our clients are startups and tech entrepreneurs and so on. So by getting our lawyers involved in legal tech, i.e. an area they actually know about,
understand and care about,
and seeing what it takes, we don't do legal work for these guys. This is not MDR Lab is nothing to do with legal work, right? This is them watching what an early stage company has to go through to build product. They're seeing it. They're part of that journey. They're seeing, these entrepreneurs, these startup founders, they get really well known in the firm because they're with us for for such an intense period of time. So loads of people are getting loads of different things out of it. The associates and partners who are directly involved in the with a lab company, they're building great social relations. They're having a lot of fun. They're really interested. They're getting more and more interested in a particular type of technology. The firm as a whole is benefiting because we're understanding kind of what it takes to build a tech company. We're using early stage. We're using technologies earlier than the market. That's part of the value prop to us. We're investing in some. We have made returns already. We've exited one of our investments already and made a really healthy return on it. We've got 3 other investments that we've made through the lab. So there's all different constituents benefiting in all different ways. And it's helping our profile externally. So there's a bunch of different reasons.
And that was my next question. You talked about striking the right balance between client confidentiality and not wanting people running around the firm looking at whatever documents. But I guess it's my educated guess that I would assume clients love the fact that they have a firm that is conducting real-time experimentation in how to make the practice of law better. How do they react? Is it a big part of why they come to MDR?
Yeah, they're super interested. We as a firm aren't a typical firm serving Fortune 500 companies as our core. We do serve Fortune 500 or FTSE 100 companies, but actually our core client base, it tends to be entrepreneurs, early stage companies, high net worth individuals, family offices, and so on. So they're a little less focused on the kinds of question of how are you innovating? We don't fill in many RFPs, for example, but our clients care
very lucky.
about, it is good, huh? But of course, our clients care about business outcomes. They care that we get their work done well and fast and as cheaply as possible, frankly. And so a lot of the conversation around technology is about doing work better. you said at the beginning, we are primarily a litigation firm, and I want us to be able to say confidently that we've got the best litigators using the best tools to get that done. And I want us to be as good at the second bit as we are at the first. I want this, the firm wants the smartest people using the smartest litigation strategies, but I want to make damn sure that they have got, the whatever CSI Miami. I want the kind of the geeks behind we've got the best bit of tech, right? We've got the best bit of tech for this particular problem. And it's not the same bit of tech we used last week. It's a different bit of tech because it's a different problem. And I want us to be sophisticated enough to know those things. And so, yeah, when you can tell that story together, and it doesn't lead with technology, it leads with getting you a business outcome, it works. So, we clients come in and see some of the stuff we're doing, but it's not a big part of why we do it, to be honest.
Right. So we talked about legal tech startups come to you with an idea or an early build, and they get access to the resources of the firm and the people to help build the product and make it awesome. We talked about that as kind of one of the three big pitfalls that a legal tech entrepreneur has. The next one is you need money, right? Yeah. So I know you all bring investors into the firm occasionally to see the products. How does MDR help facilitate companies getting to the next stage of their kind of growth?
Yeah, I guess in a couple of ways. As you said, we facilitate introductions. We put on events. People come and look. We write checks. I think the other thing is around.
Who are they? I think that's not obvious. You said people come in and take a look and invest. Who are they? To most people, it's this world of investors in legal tech, the quote unquote smart money. Who are these people right now?
So there's a lot of angels, a lot of angel investors, people, private individuals with a certain amount of wealth who are interested in investing, and they might be writing checks for a few $1,000s up to 20, 30, 50,000, occasionally more, occasionally six-figure numbers. And some of those people are in clubs, in what do you call them, groups together. Gosh, I've just forgotten the word. But some of them are sort of grouped together in certain sort of investment kind of groups. Wow, I'll think of the word in a minute. And then there are, there used to then be quite a big gap up to big institutional investors who would really look to invest at sort of Series A rounds, so rounds that are maybe a few $1 million of money in. There are increasingly seed funds who are doing those kind of earlier stage rounds, maybe where the company's looking to raise a few $100,000 or maybe just a $1-2 million pounds of money. And so we're looking at all of those. We get a lot of angels and private money in the room. We get a lot of the seed investors in the UK market in particular who are interested in legal tech, and we've got some good relationships with some of the sort of bigger funds, particularly in Europe. Although through experiences with Ping and others, we've now got a decent network in the Valley and other parts of the world too. So
that's really exciting. And I would just emphasize for the audience, on that early stage, you're talking about thousands, 25,000, 50,000. I mean, these are numbers that they're certainly not small and insignificant, but they're numbers that, successful lawyers certainly have access to personally. So, I try to remind my lawyer friends who spend a lot of time fearing the robot revolution that this is something that they absolutely can participate in, maybe have a little fun and possibly make some real money.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Particularly on our side of the pond, there's some real tax efficiencies around that as well. I don't know this position for the US, but so that's absolutely. A lot of people get pretty interested in that. So
yep, no, same. So we talked about that. One of the things I talked about in my introduction is regulatory change. So in the US, this is a big deal. For the first time, we have states opening up regulatory sandboxes whereby lawyers can share profits with non-lawyers, and other creative combinations of talents can own equity and essentially practice. I agree. A lot of people would disagree, but I think that's fantastic. I know, and I think most people in the legal tech world know that in the UK, and in fact, in most of the rest of the world, that's the status quo. There can be combined ventures with lawyers and non-lawyers. In the UK, that's fairly recent in the last 10 years. How has that impacted the world of legal innovation?
I think it's, I think the UK, because of its relatively liberal approach, to regulation like that, I think it has meant that it's given us a really good position in the, the UK legal tech market is a mature and advanced market relative to other parts of the world. I think, that many of the big law companies, the non-regulated businesses providing legal services or quasi-legal services, have got a pretty good position in the UK. I think there's plenty of law firms, UK law firms, the bigger firms, the large law kind of firms. They've actually probably been more ambitious, more creative, with lots of different angles. So there's a lot of different firms. I'm not going to comment on how good or bad I think any of these ideas are. It's not my place to do that. But I think a lot of them have built Axiom, lawyer on demand type kind of businesses. Finding lawyers, for secondments. A lot of them have built their own of those products. A lot of them have built managed service centers to keep a nearshoring kind of work. A lot of them have built, a number of these kind of things themselves, because they've been able to do it in such a way that they've been able to bring in non-legal but highly skilled business management who have been in the outsourcing space or the managed services space or the whatever staffing space, and they've been able to, build businesses and invite those people in to be sharing in the upside of those businesses. So it's a pretty fertile ground. You look at the likes, my alma mater, Linklaters, but look at someone like Allen & Overy. They've got a really impressive collection of offerings in that space, and I'm sure the regulatory position has helped.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. It's something I point out to law students and to practicing lawyers who kind of want to move into the legal tech world. There is I think a myth that you have to have a huge appetite for risk to move into legal tech. And sure, starting a company from scratch takes a lot of risk, but there's so many things in between now. I just came from Ernst & Young. You came from Axiom, which is a huge company. Thomson Reuters does billions and billions in legal revenue. There are only a handful of firms that have the type of revenue that Thomson, I don't know if there are any, that Thomson Reuters puts up every year in the legal.
Not even close.
Not even close.
No.
And so it is a myth that you have to risk everything to go into legal technology. And I think both of us went into things that were very stable, first before we went into the world of smaller companies. Of course, Axiom, when you were growing, it was smaller and there was a lot of risk there. So kudos. I think I have one kind of more question for you. The world of legal investment is really getting interesting. So I don't know if you read a couple of weeks ago, the first legal-centric special purpose acquisition vehicle was started by a former chairman of Kirkland, arguably the most successful global firm in the past 10 years, certainly amongst the highest profits per partner year over year and highest revenue. What does that signal to you about the next 10 years?
It's a maturing segment. $200 million is an awful lot of money in this segment. And it really, we could get all definitional about it, right? Because there's a lot of things that, are they really legal tech, or are they bits of legal technology that have been around for a while, and is there a difference? But at $200 million, there are only certain, it's a very different part of the market to the stuff that I focus my time on, where you couldn't put that much money to work in multiple years. It's a very big number. But that itself is interesting, right? We've got all sorts of consolidation, private equity backed consolidation plays happening again. We're on a Litera TV, so that's an example. We've got these law companies that are, you mentioned Axiom, a couple of times, and just the sheer size. It's not my place to say what that number is, but it's as you say, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. And you look at Elevate and others who have got similar numbers, and the big four, and then you look at the startup. We've got this massive spectrum of stuff, which means it's a maturing segment, which means, I think, just to tie back to your last comment, I think it's an incredible time to be involved in this. I am so lucky that I took that ridiculous decision, or it seemed ridiculous 15 years ago, to combine this law and tech stuff in a way that you said you were involved in legal technology, and everyone looked as if you were kind of a weirdo. Totally. Whereas now they still do that, but I feel a bit more okay with that.
I mean, we're definitely weirdos, but for different reasons.
But we're living through this time. We're living through this era where, through a whole combination of regulatory reasons and money and available capital, whatever, it is the beginnings of an incredible part of the story of the evolution of legal services.
I couldn't agree more. And I think people will look back in 10 years and say, oh, all the people that were, involved in this, huge wave of change, we're so lucky to be there. If you're watching this show, if you're paying attention to Litera TV, you can be a part of it. Like I think most organizations are begging for new talent, for new ideas. You don't need to know how to code.
Oh my God.
That's another myth.
If I get asked that one more time, I'm.
Yeah. Last question, we might get cut off. From your personal point of view, what is the most exciting thing you see coming around the corner in the next 10 years? What gets you up in the morning? It's a tough one, sorry.
I know, but I guess I don't even think like that. I know better than to think like that. I think I've learned better than to think like that. What is the most exciting thing I see coming around the corner? I'm going to dodge the question. I'm going to say genuinely, I think the most exciting thing is there are all sorts of signals that this stuff is becoming pervasive. Whether it is, it's this often stated thing that it looks like you don't make much progress in a 1 year period, but actually, if you look back over 5 or 10 years, you realize you're coming a long way. Whether it is, there's obviously a much more elegant way of saying what I just said there,
totally
but the idea that there is deregulation in the US, the idea that there's law school grads are thinking about becoming law tech entrepreneurs. Partners in big law, the majority of them now believe post-COVID that tech is a much bigger part of, how important, it's much more important in their firm than they thought it was, whether it's remote hearings and virtual hearings in court or whatever it might be. I genuinely believe that change is the thing that we've been waiting for, that really triggers, increasing adoption, increasing interest. So I think that is the most exciting thing. This has been an awful year and an incredible year for legal technology. So I think that I am, super pumped about the next kind of 2 or 3, which is the horizon I tend to think most about. And so, I can't see further away than that, but it is a super, super time to be in this space.
Thank you so much. Nick West, everybody, MDR Lab, MDR, the wonderful firm. Thanks for being on and for your fantastic perspective.
Joe, it's always a pleasure. Thanks, man.
Bye, everybody. Till next week.